of releasing it. That wasn't even the point of getting the report put together. You know, and I think, but here's the thing, and I think this is important, Scott, is that you know, any effort to turn this into being a story about that the church hired reporters is you know, is not the point. The point is that anyone has the right to turn the tables on the media, and anybody can certainly look to the media to scrutinize itself. And what's important is whether the people who are doing the scrutinizing can do so independently. And in this case, these journalists can and absolutely did, and it was set up in such a way that they could. And that's without question. So it becomes a blurring of what is actually happening here, which is that anybody has a right to turn around and say, hey, was this honest? Was this straightforward reporting? Was it done according to journalistic standards? Were the appropriate people given the appropriate voice? And the media has a right to inspect itself, but also other people have a right to inspect what the media does. And if that results in vindication, the media should take responsibility for not doing it right. And that's all we're talking about here. That's the actual story.
Well, I understand that. What then is the purpose of doing this? Is it for internal purposes, for the church itself to be able to have a discussion about the coverage that the St. Pete Times has given it over the years, or if it's not going to be released to the public, what is the purpose of the study?
Well, the purpose of it from the outset was just literally to get an independent view of the St. Pete Times' reporting on the Church of Scientology. And that was our interest, was to get what an outsider's view was and would be of their reporting. And that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to be able to sit down and look at. And that was the purpose of it.
One more thing. I just received a joint statement. It was only like maybe an hour ago from the two reporters and the editor that were involved here.
Uh-huh.
And they basically, I could send you the whole thing, and I will, but part of it said that during an interview with the Washington Post that you discussed a portion of the findings of their independent review and, quote, in doing so, did not accurately portray the full scope of our work. We've urged the church to release the complete report of that review. So do you want to reply to that?
No, I guess I don't totally understand. I don't understand the question. I haven't seen their statement. I mean, I don't. I'm not familiar with that.
I think.
What is it that they said that
I think that the Washington Post, and the Washington Post might have quoted you wrong, which is the thing I want to make sure about. I mean, they quoted you as saying that the report painted the St. Petersburg Times coverage in a negative light, and they're saying that that if that is true, if that's what you actually said to the Washington Post, that statement does not accurately portray the full scope of their work.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, they have, well, right there's your indication as to their independence. You know what I mean? There's no question that they are independent and that they're their own people who can speak for themselves. And I think, that would be evidence of their independence. As far as whatever I'm already on record as having said, it's the point is that the report was done to look at the St. Pete Times' reporting on the Church of Scientology, and that's what they did, and that's what we wanted, and whether we choose to release it or not is at our discretion. But I think outside of that, the St. Petersburg Times didn't do the story that they had appropriately and according to any journalistic standards, and that's really what's at issue here, and that they didn't interview the person that they did the profile on when they had a scheduled interview, and they didn't even make it known that they were doing a profile, and they went to press before getting that interview, and that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I guess that's my final question too, is why do you think it's important for the Church of Scientology to conduct this review and to do some of the other work outside of this review that it's done investigating the St. Petersburg Times?
Well, I think any organization has a right to defend itself, but aside from that, anyone should And now, fortunately, as a result of the advent of the internet and modern communication, people have a bigger voice, and they can defend themselves, and they can set the record straight. And aside from anything else, whether it's defensive or offensive, people have the ability to put out the truth. And all we're interested in is the truth, and people knowing the truth and reading it in context, understanding it in context, and having a full picture of what it is that are the issues of fact in any given situation. And that's all we're interested in, and that would be the motivation behind any of the work that we would do, whether it be in regards to the St. Petersburg Times or a social situation, a government entity, anybody. And the thing is that we just want to put out the truth, and we have the ability to have our own voice in that regard, and we're going to continue to ensure that it's heard.
Tommy, is there anything I forgot to ask you? Any other points that you want to make sure got made?
Let's see. Hold on a second. I'm just thinking. I was looking over the questions that you sent me, and to see if there was sort of anything else that I could think of. Yeah, I mean, I think the point is that the Church of Scientology is a force for positive change in society. We run one of the largest anti-drug education campaigns in the world, non-governmental, one of the largest human rights education campaigns in the world. Our volunteer ministers who are trained in disaster response respond in times of disaster all over the world constantly. We have hundreds of volunteer ministers who've gone down to Haiti, and before that they were at Katrina, and before that they were at the tsunami, and many disasters in between. And our effort and our focus is on helping other people and ministering to our parishioners and expanding. And the church has grown more in the last year than the last 5 years combined, and more in the last 5 years than the last 5 decades combined. So there's certainly an enormous amount of interest in Scientology, and we have an enormous ability to do good, and that's what we put our attention on. And off to the side, if we need to, take some action to put the truth out there to correct falsehoods, which is what we're doing with regards to the St. Petersburg Times, we'll do that. But that's by no means our mainline activity. It's actually far from it. We have much bigger, much better, and much more important things to do than get into those kinds of things.
I appreciate it. A factual question really quickly. How many members of the Church of Scientology are there in America and the world?
I would say there are millions in the U.S. and millions more abroad. And that would be about as specific as I'd be able to get with you.
Okay. Tommy Davis, Church of Scientology International. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Hi, Scott. This is Neil Brown.
Hey, Neil. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Neil, what's your reaction to this Church of Scientology hiring 2 journalists to review your coverage of them?
Well, I was a little surprised that the journalists would take the job. Actually, I'm not that surprised at the church hiring journalists to look at our work overall. In fact, they informed us they were doing that. They put an ad in a journalism publication seeking journalists to investigate the Times, and that was public. And then they asked us a number of questions and asked for records. We provided the records. We declined to be part of their study. What surprised me about these the most recent case is that these were actually, I count 3 journalists, 2 investigative reporters and an editor at the University of Missouri, who they had contacted us about a quote-unquote independent review of our work. That took us a little bit by surprise, in part because first they didn't identify who they were working for initially, and then when we later learned of their credentials and that they had had extensive experience in investigative reporting, we were further surprised and a little bit disappointed that they thought it was a good idea to ask us to stop what we were doing and cooperate on an independent review of our work, particularly when I only upon pressing them found out they were being paid to do it by the Church of Scientology. So